Tensions are rising in Spain. At a hostel in Barcelona, protesters were taping off the entrance when they were confronted by a staff member. It escalated quickly. Protests against tourism are now erupting across the country. In Tenerife, an island with a population of less than 1 million, they welcomed 7.4 million tourists in 2024. That's the same number of tourists that visited Australia. Barcelona was visited by 15 million tourists, almost 10 times their population. These protesters fear that mass tourism leads to a higher cost of living, particularly of housing. Over the past 10 years, the cost of rent has nearly doubled. But while tourism plays a role in all of this, its effect on Spain's affordability crisis is widely misunderstood. This is how Spain really got too expensive for Spaniards with hindsight. This video was filmed by a resident of Ibiza who was returning back home. Drunk tourists do stupid things. Barcelona is taking center stage to tackle these issues, and they have plans to ban holiday apartments. But you can't just blame tourists for Spain's housing crisis. I did a deep dive into the statistics, and I found that while tourism plays a part in all of this, how it exactly works is not what you might expect. For example, in Barcelona, did you know that short-term rentals like Airbnb make up less than 1% of the entire housing stock? I'm going to share all the findings of my research about what is happening today, but first, it's important that we understand a bit of historical context. In the 1950s, Spain was still mostly an agricultural society. But in cities, large manufacturing industries were emerging. People in rural areas wanted to move to the city, but Spain's leader, Franco, didn't like this at all. He feared that cities could become a breeding ground for political dissent, so he imposed travel restrictions. Any Spaniard who wanted to move between provinces had to obtain a permit, and this kept people in the countryside. But by the 1960s, even Franco realized that this couldn't last, so he lifted the restrictions, and as a result, 10 million Spaniards decided to move. With Spain's population then standing at 32 million people, this meant that nearly 1 in every 3 people moved. This created a massive spike in demand for urban housing, and Franco built millions of cheap homes in the city's suburbs. This helped increase the rate of homeownership from 45% in 1950 to 70% in 1970. In Barcelona, it was even more extreme. Just 5% of people owned their home in 1950, and by 1970, this figure had risen to 38%. Franco helped Spain become a nation of homeowners. After Franco's death, Spain joined the European Economic Area, and they opened their doors for tourism. The tipping point became the Summer Olympics. These were held in 1992 in Barcelona, and in preparation for this event, the city invested massively in its infrastructure. Factories were replaced by parks, fisherman shacks by beaches for sunbathing tourists. The city was transformed into a mecca for urban tourism, and this helped rebrand Spain as an attractive holiday destination. So this was all done by design. The economy of Spain was shrinking and there was extremely high unemployment. And that is because the manufacturing sector was in decline. And to solve these issues, they restructured their economy with tourism at its heart. And more tourism meant more demand for property. But since the rate of homeownership had now risen to 84% on a national level, one of the highest rates in Europe, rising property costs would increase the net worth of many Spaniards. It all seemed to make a lot of sense. The booming construction sector created tens of thousands of new jobs as they built hundreds of thousands of new homes every single year, with a record in 2006. On paper, this all looked great. The economy of Spain more than doubled in size in just a few years. But this all came crashing down. Okay, but first I need to take a little bit of a break because I live here in Spain and it's getting really hot. I live in Barcelona and I'm an expat, and I'm gonna get into how our group of people fit into this entire story. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. I usually finish my day on this couch to watch some Netflix, but how often does it happen to you that a certain title you want to watch is not available online? The solution: CyberGhost VPN. This routes your internet traffic through a country of your choice, unblocking all geo-restricted content. In my experience, this is particularly helpful with TV shows and older series. You can choose from over 100 countries to unblock content from more than 40 streaming services, including Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney+. If you sign up right now through my link in the description, you will not only help my channel, you will also get an 84% discount and you will get 4 months for free. It doesn't get any cheaper than this. Click the link in the description. Spain's economy was the envy of Europe in the early 2000s, outpacing most other countries, but it crashed twice as hard. Their impressive growth was fueled by easy credit, lax regulation, and a construction sector that was building homes to sell as an investment, not as a place to live. The crash led to the unemployment rate to rise from a near historic low of 8% to an all-time high of 26%, meaning that now 1 in every 4 adults was unemployed. It was a disaster like Spain had never seen before. Most of the job loss was caused by the collapse of the construction sector. This was the main driver of employment in the early 2000s, and Spain needed another industry to take its place. The EU was providing generous funding to Spain to get out of this troubled position, and the Spanish government then decided to invest this in boosting its tourism infrastructure, especially in places that economically depended on this source of income, like the Mediterranean and the Canary Islands. Then, following the Arab Spring, many tourists decided not to visit popular destinations in North Africa like Tunisia, Egypt, and Turkey, and this contributed to a boost of tourism to Spain. The number of tourists that visited Spain rose by 34% over just those 5 years. They invested this in refurbishing their coastal towns, beaches, and marketing campaigns, and they deregulated this short-term rental market to make room for services like Airbnb. All these efforts led in 2017 to Spain overtaking the US and becoming the second most visited country in the world. This was a major accomplishment, and tourism acted as a stabilizing force in the Spanish economy, but it wasn't providing the same high-paying jobs as construction and manufacturing, and it added immense pressure on the housing market. Spain, before the market crash, built over 500,000 new homes every year. That was way more than they needed. But now they were building just 90,000 homes per year, less than half what was required to meet the rising demand. So I found this one graph that illustrates the problem perfectly. See this. This is how much the salaries of young people have risen in the past 10 years, about 23%, while inflation over that same time was about 20%. This means that effectively, people are making about the same. But here's the real shocker. This is how much the cost of buying and renting a house have increased over that same period. While salaries just barely kept up with inflation, the cost of buying and renting shot through the roof. One of the causes is that Spain just didn't build enough houses where people wanted to live, while the number of tourists and immigrants was increasing. Here you see the difference in Barcelona. There are now 8 times more foreign-born people in the city than in 1999. And this is also a trend on a national level, but it is much less pronounced. But in the end, the demand and supply of housing will always change, and it is the government's responsibility to put policies in place that restore that balance. So let me share the most shocking discovery from my research.
So I told you that under Franco, millions of homes were built to house people in rural areas, which people then left in large numbers after the restrictions on travel were lifted. This left many homes abandoned. Then, during the construction boom of the early 2000s, hundreds of thousands of homes were built and never sold. They were either demolished or they are still sitting empty today. Then the housing market for so many years was used by rich foreigners and locals to act as an investment. People with money, they bought these homes and they let them sit empty while they increased in value. So from all homes in the entire country of Spain, 14% is sitting empty. It makes absolutely no sense to me that Spain has a housing shortage while on paper they also have a housing surplus. In very touristy places like the Canary Islands, this might make some intuitive sense. Here, 1 in every 3 homes is sitting empty. These are mostly holiday homes from tourists that are often used seasonally. But what about major cities? In Madrid, 6% of homes are sitting empty. In Barcelona and Valencia, about 9% of homes are sitting empty. That's an incredible number of homes that is not used for living, while so many people are also searching for an affordable flat. On top of all of this, in the last few years, the number of tourists visiting Spain has broken all records, reaching 94 million people in 2024. This coincided with a jump in tourist homes by more than 1/3 in just 1 year. Of course, people are pissed off. Don't add so much demand when you're not creating the supply. Tourism plays a major role in Spain's housing crisis. So does their history of using housing as a tool for investment, and the large number of immigrants who arrived recently to Spain, as well as an inadequate supply of new homes. Getting permits and plans approved for building just takes so much time and money. Don't forget to click on the link in the description to get a special discount that CyberGhost VPN is granting to our subscribers. This VPN protects your data while you browse, and it gives you full access to all blocked content on the internet. It is totally risk-free, so check it out. Link in the description. If you enjoyed this, please consider watching one of these 2 videos next.